Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
What I thought we'd do is we'll do a little bit of the Parsha, and then I made copies of the story of Yochai. Right, tomorrow night, Thursday, is Lag BaOmer, right? And one of the aspects of Lag BaOmer, if you're in Israel, is you have tens of thousands of people who ascend to Har Miron. Ever done that?
I've not done that, but I'm from a kibbutz, so we do our Lag BaOmer.
Right.
It's very exciting.
Yeah, big bonfires.
Yes.
So that sounds about right.
2 years ago I also went.
Yeah.
My friend,
Yeah, in Israel it's Pyro Day, and all the pyromaniacs have a good time, and the kids have been dragging logs and branches and discarded furniture. Yeah.
That they shouldn't.
Yeah, it gets right. But in Miron, which is the burial place of Shimon Yochai, so there, 1 year I did it, and it's amazing. From Yerushalayim, you buy a round trip ticket, and you have buses just going nonstop, one after another, going to Miron, and then we get there, and there are thousands and thousands. You try to get close to the kever. It's a bit of a mash scene over there, right? You kids get the haircuts, yeah, and then it is the yard site of Shimon Bar Yochai.
Who is?
Shimon Bar Yochai. We'll learn about him today. The Gemara story about him, and the Zohar is attributed to him. He was one of the greatest sages. Now, a yard site of a great tzaddik is actually a time. It's called a hilula, right? It is a time of celebration. Why would it be a time of celebration?
His life is closer to.
Yes, celebrating his life and his
soul.
accomplishments and his teachings that were given down to us. So we celebrate the life and the gifts that he gave to us. Okay, so even though during Sfira we minimize different things in terms of haircuts, in terms of music. Right, there is this somber aspect of the death of the students of Rabbi Akiva, right? But when it comes to Lag BaOmer, that is a festive day. So we'll come to that in a little bit. Let us get started on the Parsha. Parsha Bahar, Sefer Vayikra, page 696. Okay, I would like to lead off for us.
וידבר אדוני משה בהר סיני לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת אליהם, כי תבואו אל הארץ אשר אני נותן לכם, ושבתה הארץ שבת לאדוני.
עוד פסוק.
6 שנים תזרע שדך, ו6 שנים תזמור כרמך. ואספת את תבואתה.
עוד אחד.
ובשנה השביעית שבת שבתון יהיה לארץ שבת לאדוני שדך לא תזרע וכרמך לא תזמור.
Beautiful. Marta, take us first in English over there.
Hashem spoke to Moses on Mount Sinai, saying, "Speak to the children of Israel and say to them, when you come into the land that I give you, the land shall observe a Shabbat rest for Hashem. For 6 years you may sow your land, and for 6 years you may prune your vineyards, and you may gather its crop. And in the 7th year and in the 7th year shall be a complete rest for the land, a Shabbat for Hashem. Your fields you shall not sow, your vineyards you shall not prune."
Perfect. So this is introducing Shmita. Okay? And famously, Rashi asks, and this actually is a modern Hebrew expression. Rashi asks, "Ma inyan Shmita etzel Har Sinai," right? Ma inyan Shmita. What is this? What is the context? What is the connection of Shmita of the sabbatical year to Mount Sinai, right? Now, right, I think, in English, I know South African, in English, while I was growing, we would say, what does that have to do with the price of tea in China? Right? When someone said something that has, like, where is that coming from?
Apples and oranges.
Right. Right, exactly. Right? So what's beautiful is Israeli society has adopted for a lot of their expressions, right, words from the sages, words from the Medrash.
Absolutely.
Right? So Rashi asks, what is the connection? What does this have to do with the price of tea in China? Meaning, why are we connecting over here Shmita to Har Sinai?
Because of the Torah that was given on Mount Sinai.
Yes, but wasn't the whole Torah given on Mount Sinai? Right? You're right. But this is 1 out of 613. Right? So Rashi explains that other mitzvot are reiterated in Devarim, elsewhere. And therefore one might have thought that the Torah was given partially at Har Sinai and then fully explained later on. But Shmita is not reiterated elsewhere in the Torah. And therefore, Shmita, it's clear that in its entirety, it was given at Har Sinai. And that then reflects that all the other mitzvot, just like Shmita, it was said klaloteha, upratoteha, v'dikdukeha, all of its details, all of its aspects were all said at Har Sinai and Mount Sinai. So too all of the mitzvot. Don't think for a moment that some of them were given partially and then fully explained later on. All of the mitzvot were given fully at Har Sinai. That's what this is coming to teach me. But the question then remains, why does the Torah emphasize this specifically by Shmita? If the Torah wants to teach us that all of the mitzvot were given in their entirety on Mount Sinai, on Har Sinai, why does the Torah emphasize this specifically by Shmita? So let's try to understand what is so significant about this mitzvah of Shmita. Now, I saw a very provocative title to an article. The title was, "The Land of Israel was not given to the Jewish people."
It was not given.
The land of Israel was not given to the Jewish people.
It was on lease, like our life is on lease.
Okay, right? So it seemed to be, here we go. This is going to be about, some Palestinian apologist or BDS. Here we go, right? But actually, that wasn't at all what it was about. It was about the Parsha of Shmita.
So what's the question?
So let's understand, what is this mitzvah of Shmita? Why is it so unique? And perhaps why is this the one that the Torah chose to present as the teaching for all the mitzvah that they were all given in their entirety on Har Sinai? What is this mitzvah of Shmita? What does it do for us? What do we learn from it? Oh, hello.
Can I say
Brucha haba'ah.
Shmita is the seventh year when we don't.
Exactly.
When we leave whatever is left on the field.
Exactly. On the 7th year, the Shmita sabbatical year, we don't treat the land as our own. It becomes hefker. It becomes available for anyone to come and partake. That whatever grows is there for everyone.
That's it. That's the mitzvah. That's the mitzvah. People who come to pick up, actually, it's yours, but it's not yours. You're giving it up. You're giving a donation, but you're giving also a donation to people whom you don't know, who not even know that you gave them.
Do you even grow?
Okay, so on one hand, so on one hand, it is tzedakah. It is tzedakah on a high level because you don't even know who's receiving.
Right.
Do we even grow on the 7th year? Because it says complete rest of the land.
Right, but things will grow on their own, right? In other words, your vineyard is going to produce a crop every year. Your orchard, your trees, right? Certain things need to be planted, but other things just keep every year on their own, right? Are growing. Yes.
Well, there's two things.
Exactly.
Because of 7 and 7 weeks between Pesach and Shavuos.
Okay.
And also the 7th day is Shabbos.
Okay.
So is there a connection?
Okay. So the number 7 plays a very important role in Judaism. Okay? What does, in a spiritual sense, what does the number 7 represent?
Rest.
Yes, but let's understand
that's
why.
The day, supposedly spiritual
Yes,
day.
that is correct, right? In many ways, right? We have Shabbat, the 7th day. We have Shmita, the 7th year. We have 7 Shmitot, 7 Shmita cycles, and then we have the Yovel, the Jubilee, the 50th year, right? So we have a lot of 7s, right? So, well, what does 4 represent? 4 are the Arba Kanfot Haaretz, so to speak. The 4 directions, the 4 corners of the earth. We know this world isn't flat, right? But it means the four dimensions, the 4 directions. What does 6 then represent?
The last day of creation,
Besides that, in terms of directions and stuff like that,
It's all the
right?
directions.
It's all the directions,
Up and down.
up and down, right? 6 gives us all the different directions, right? The 4 directions, up and down. That's what 6 gives us. 7 is that point in the middle that is the center, that is the purpose of all that there is.
Isn't that where
So 7 is going to be the Kedusha, the holiness that is in the system. Right? We've mentioned, what does 8 represent?
beyond-
8 is going beyond the system, beyond the physical. Brit Milah, circumcision, is going beyond the physical, right? Chanukah, Shmini Atzeret, right? All of those is going beyond the system. 7 is the holiness within the system. So we have Shabbat, right? Which system is being discussed when it comes to Shabbat? The system of time. What is Shabbat? The holiness that is within the system. Shmita, which system is being discussed with Shmita? The land. Not the time, but the place. Right? Where does this take place? Right? In Israel. Okay? Israel is the Kedusha. Israel is the land of the 7 nations initially. Right? Israel is the Kedusha that is in the system of land. Israel is the holy place. Now let's come back to Shmita. What does Shmita teach us? What is the different mitzvot that we do by putting ourselves, by living it, by doing it, we are changed. We are transformed by that. So on one hand, what do we have? We have tzedakah. We have charity. We have that which is being given to, and I don't like using the term charity. Right? In English, charity is that it's a little bit condescending. Like, I am the philanthropist, and you are the charity receiver. Right? Tzedakah, what's the root of the word tzedakah? Tzedek. What does tzedek mean? Righteous, justice. Right? B'tzedek tishbot et amitecha. With justice you should judge your fellow. Right? Justice is that which is deserving, that which is right, That's not what we call lifnim mishurat hadin. That's not going above and beyond. And I, the great generous self, that I am doing this. It is tzedek. It is justice. Okay, so what else does Shmita inculcate us with?
By the way, it's connected to what I thought that it is. Shmita is not only for the land, we have to remember. It's really for the people. And if we think about it, before we had how the Kohanim will get dressed, how you do the korbanot, how you do this, it's for God, this part of it. And I think my Shmita le'Har Sinai, I'm not Rashi, so I'm not trying to pretend that I stand there, but the way I see it, you do not forget the things that are for people to people. And it's not only Shmita here, it's only all the things that you do to other people, that you owe money.
Loans are canceled. Loans are canceled on the Shemitah year. If a person has an outstanding loan and they want to collect that loan, so Hillel instituted something called a pruzbul, which is a way of structuring the loan in a way that you can collect it even after Shemitah. But according to the Torah law, if one does not make this pruzbul, draw up this pruzbul document, then the loans are canceled. Okay? So what is Shmitah teaching us? What does Shmitah inculcate us with?
It's not ours, it's God's, so we give the portion which doesn't.
Okay. So on one level, now, how do we know that it's not simply an agricultural green practice in order to make sure that, you have to give the land a little bit of time to replenish? How do we know it's not simply that?
The overgrowth of the 6th year that will cover for the other 3 years.
No, but okay.
Because then it shows the character of miracle, and that it's not just a resting of the land.
Okay, but from the laws itself, how do we know that it's not simply to replenish the nutrients and the strength of the ground?
The freedom of the slaves.
Okay, but I'm saying within the laws of Shmita itself, if you were a farmer, you're a farmer and you've got thousands of acres of land, and you are convinced that every 7 years, right, the land needs to replenish itself. How would you do it?
Take turns.
Take turns.
Mm-hmm.
But
Right?
does that not differ according to when you plant your land? Surely the Shmita year differs from farmer to farmer.
No.
No.
We'll come to that. No. Okay. The Shemitah year is a set year for everyone.
Then how does the country exist in that year?
Okay, we'll come to that in a second. Okay? So, if it was simply this agricultural, replenish the nutrients of the earth and green and save the planet and don't you care about your grandchildren, if it was all of that, then what would we say to do? Leave 1/7 of your land fallow this year, another 1/7, and that way you're not going to be going an entire year with nothing. Well, not with nothing, you can partake of the growth of the field like anyone else. Not as an owner, not locking the gates, not bringing to your storehouse. As long as there's availability out in the field for anyone who wanders in, I can have in my house. Once it's kalam and asadeh, once it's no longer available in the field, then I can no longer store it in my house. So, Marta asks, so what happens?
That's exactly the good.
What happens? Right? So the pasuk actually says...
It's the same as it's a feast.
Just one second.
It's the same like 7th on Shabbat.
Right? The pasuk says.
That God gave matzah for 2 days, so.
That's a good point.
What was that?
Because Hashem promised that even if you leave the land, like for the 7th year, it's still going to be okay.
The pasuk. Can you find the pasuk?
It's the show of faith.
Okay, so here we go. This is page 700, 701.
once again?
Verse 20.
Seven.
This is Martyr's question. Verse 20. Eileen, you have that? If you will say.
If you will say, what will we eat in the 7th year? Behold, we will not sow and not gather in our crops.
Marty, your question. The answer. Continue.
I will ordain my blessing for you in the 6th year, and it will yield a crop sufficient for the 3-year period. Okay. You will sow in the 8th year, but you will eat from the old crop until the 9th year. Until the arrival of its crop, you will eat the old.
So the 6th year is going to carry you through for the 6th, for the 7th, and for enough of the 8th until you're able to eat those crops.
What do you do with like fresh things, like lettuce, like tomatoes, which are...
So you don't eat...
So there was a bracha, there was a blessing that was given that things, well, you might not have everything, and things will remain. Now, just as an aside, I wasn't planning on going into this too much, but just as an aside, let's say we are the ones, right? This is often presented as one of the proofs of the divinity of the Torah. Let's say we're sitting down here to write a Torah. We've got some great minds here. Let's sit down and write a Torah. Okay? But we're going to present this Torah as Vaydaber Hashem al Moshe Aleinu. Okay? Okay? We're going to present it as God said to Moses, saying. So we're going to write this Torah. Let's see. Okay, let's put in a day of rest. Is that a good idea? Like a Sabbath day of rest? Sure. I think that's a great idea. Right? Who doesn't want a day off from work? I think that's wonderful. Okay, should we have some holidays that we remember different events? Sure. Oh, holidays are always great. Holidays, right? Who doesn't like a good holiday? Okay, that's good. Prayer? Yeah. Prayer. That's. I think for any religion, that's going to be important. Oh, I've got a great idea, guys. Right? My idea is let's write that comes the 7th year. No one plant, no one harvest. Make everything hefker. Make everything ownerless. Right? So Marta's going to speak up and say, Rabbi, there's a bit of a problem there. What are they going to eat? I say, no problem. We're going to write that the 6th year there'll be enough to feed them for 3 years. What's the problem with that, guys?
You can't.
Committee, is that a good idea?
Who's going to believe it?
Who's going to believe it? And if we are charismatic enough to get them to believe it the first time, right? Right? It's not going to last. Right? In other words, we're not going to write something in the Torah. We're not going to write a guarantee that we can't fulfill. And this is a guarantee that no one can fulfill except for a creator. The only one that can fulfill this is God. The only one who would be crazy enough, to write this in the Torah is someone or something or some being that can actually make good on it. So if this was man written, then it would make no sense whatsoever to mention this in the Torah, to put such a guarantee in the Torah. Okay. Now, Shmita clearly shows emunah, faith, belief in God, right? You know, those who keep the Shmita are called the Giborei Kolach, the really strong people. You know, Shabbos, okay, so you don't go to work on Shabbos, right? You miss one day of work, okay. Most people will find that, and the reason that we have on Shabbos, at each of the meals, we have 2 loaves of bread, lechem mishnah. Why do we have 2 loaves of bread at each Shabbat meal? In order to remember?
The double portion of
the double portion. But one second, when did the double portion of manna fall from heaven?
Friday.
On Friday. Right? So we should have the double portion on Friday. Why do we have the double portion on Shabbos? On Shabbos, we want to be reminded of the man that fell from heaven. What does the man that fell from heaven show? Our support, our sustenance comes from God. Therefore, on Shabbos, if we're thinking, oh no, I'm missing out on this deal, I'm missing out on that deal, my shop is closed, I'm missing out on all this business, so you say, no, my sustenance comes from God. That's the double portion, the Lechem Mishnah that we have. That's one day. That's one day. All right, Sukkot comes, Pesach comes. For those who don't work on Chol HaMoed, wow. It's a whole 7 days, a whole 8 days. Outside of Israel, 8 days, 9 days. A year. A full year of having that faith that I am not going to act as an owner over my property. That is Giburei Koach. That is an incredible show of emunah.
Now, how do you know the produce that you're buying in the market? Let's assume you go to the market in a Shmita year.
Okay, living in Israel, present day, there are different approaches. Okay? There is what's called a heter mechira. Okay? That the chief rabbinate, right, that was instituted early on when it was literally, when they were starving in Israel all year round, and they were wondering what's going to happen on the Shmita year, right? So the heter mechira is land is sold to non-Jews, and then it is permitted. The heter mechira, some hold of it, others prefer not to use the heter mechira. Another method that's used, well, sometimes food is imported, okay? And something else that's done is called an otsar beit din. Otsar beit din literally means it's the storehouse of the beit din. In other words, as follows, and this is a classic Jewish ingenious approach to the issue, right? I've got my vineyard. I am producing world-class grapes and producing world-class wines, right? Now, I'm the owner. I am earning mega bucks doing this. Comes the Shmita year, it's got to be left ownerless. The only problem is this, right? Every Tom, Dick, and Harry comes into my field and starts pulling off grapes, right? They're not just taking the grapes. They're going to destroy my business. They're going to destroy my vines. It has to be cut a certain way. Right? I can't act as an owner, but I don't need to torpedo and lose my business, right? So therefore, what happens? The Beit Din comes in and takes over. And they say, okay, we're running this business now. Ciner, we're going to hire you. You're not the owner this year. We'll pay you a fair wage. And you can hire your workers. And you can produce your grapes and produce your wine. But no one's making a profit over here. And then the Beit Din will assess what are the actual costs that went into this. Paying the workers, not as owners, as workers. Paying the workers, the harvesting, the fermenting, the bottling, the labeling, the delivery. What is the actual cost? We produced 10,000 bottles. Normally these 10,000 bottles, let's make it easy. We produce 1,000 bottles. Normally these bottles sell for $70 a bottle. Okay? Excellent fine wine that I produce. You're surprised? Right? Normally they sell for $70 a bottle. My 1,000 bottles. Right? So $70,000 profit. Not profit, $70,000 is what this brings in. The Beit Din says, okay, what was the actual cost of this? The actual cost of this was $20,000, $10,000. Okay, these will go on the market for $10. Okay, now this will be marked that it has Kedushat Shvi'it. It has the sanctity of Shvi'it, and therefore it needs to be treated. You can't pour any out, right? It has to be treated with the proper sanctity. That's what happens nowadays in Israel. There's a lot that's imported, and there's a lot that is the Otsar baked in.
You're not supposed to let anyone damage your grape wines, but you're not supposed to cultivate them too.
I'm not cultivating. Whatever grows, grows.
But you said, okay. So
Whatever
you're not,
my vineyard, the grapevines produce grapes every year.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Right? I can prevent damage. I can't do any field improvements. I can't do anything like that.
No planting.
Right? No planting, anything like that.
No pruning.
Whatever is needed to preserve, to improve, not to preserve, yes.
And a Jew can hire a Jew.
Yes.
Who is not the owner of the field.
Yes, as long as it's being done under the auspices of a Beit Din to make sure that it's being done properly.
So the wine that's produced during the 7th year is sold for much less money.
Usually, yeah.
Wow.
Also, one last comment, Rabbi. You said, how do we know it's not just an ecological thing or a land thing? It's right in the commandment. The land shall observe a Sabbath rest for Hashem.
Yes, yes. And I mentioned earlier that there's an article that said that the title was, "The land of Israel is not given to the Jewish people." And that's what, right, not to say it was given to any other people, but to say that, and that's what Shmita teaches us. The land is not ours. The land belongs to God. And He, right, if you look very back at the very beginning, Ki tavo el haaretz, when you will come to the land. Now what's interesting is, this mitzvah did not begin just when we entered the land. It was only after the 14 years of conquest and division of the land. So why does it say when you will come to the land? Okay? This is the mitzvah with which we will come to the land. This is the mitzvah which will enable us to keep the land. If we recognize that the land is not ours, that the land is God's, and He gifts it to us under certain circumstances, right? As long as we follow certain conditions, as long as we recognize that, then it is ours. If we don't recognize that, then it will no longer be ours. That is the overriding lesson of the Shmita, right? It is a Shabbat la Hashem. When you come to the land, Asher ani notain lachem. Not natan, notain is present tense. God is constantly giving it to us if we are so deserving of it. And as we saw in our history, it was taken away from us when we were not deserving of it. Now, it should come as no surprise then that the amount of exile equals the amount of shmitot that were not kept.
Say it again.
The years of exile equal the amount of shmitot, of Shmita years that were not observed. If you don't recognize who it belongs to, then you will no longer be allowed to be there. Right? You will need to exit. Now, along with this concept, slaves are not freed on the Shmita year. But slaves, Jewish slaves, go free on their 7th year. Shmita is not individualized. Shmita is according to the calendar. But every slave goes free on their 7th year. Sheish shanim, 6 years they will work, and then they go free. Again, the 7th is recognizing the kedusha that's in the system and recognizing that that's not for you to take. Shabbat is not for me to take. It's to recognize. Shmita is not for me to take. Loans are canceled. Loans are canceled. Now, Hillel saw that there was a problem. People were stopping to loan. But according to the din of the Torah, according to the law of the Torah, you lend the money. And Shmita comes and cuts it off. Goodbye. You write it off. Say goodbye. How can a person do that? How can I lend money? How in my right mind can I lend money on the 6th year knowing that Shmita is going to cut it off? So if I recognize, like Shmita, that the land doesn't belong to me, the land belongs to Hashem, and if God tells me to leave it, I'm only going to gain, not going to lose from that, then when it comes to loans, I recognize the money that I have, that which I have, is God's. If God tells me to let it go, I will not lose by that. You know, let's say you lent money to a person, right? And you're a little nervous about the loan. And the father is a multi-billionaire. And the father of the person that you're lending the money to. And you say, I'm a little unsure about making this loan. I'm a little wary. I'm a little concerned. And the father goes like this, gives you a wink. Right? So what do you say? No problem. No problem. Why no problem? The guy might not pay it back. Fair enough. Fair enough. The father is good for it. So this is simply saying, in place of the millionaire, billionaire father, what's Hashem saying? Hashem's giving you the wink.
So when you have a mortgage, that's the contract is then entered into the mortgage. Is that correct?
Okay. So the way that once again, there is if you have a mortgage with a non-Jewish bank, right, then it's not going to be an issue. If you have a mortgage with a Jewish bank, then you're in luck if they don't write a prusbul, but I'm sure they're going to write a prusbul. The prusbul, again, is the document that allows, that structures it in a way that it can be collected afterwards. But the overriding principle is, this is not your world. We're here in God's world. We're guests in God's world. This world is given to us as the time given to us here is an opportunity. It is a gift during which time we can accomplish things. We can become godly. We can uplift ourselves, uplift others, uplift the world through the instructions of the manual, of the world manual, which is the Torah Chaim, the instructions for life. But it's not your world. It's not your land, Shmita. It's not your time, Shabbos. It's not your money, tzedakah, right? Tzedakah, loans. That's why tzedakah is not charity. It's tzedek, right? Tzedek is God gave you a certain amount in order for you to distribute a portion of that, right? A person says, well, I'm not going to distribute it. What happens? Then you no longer will be commissioned that money, right? That will start to eat away at that which is coming to you. It's not yours. This is not yours. Shmita teaches us we are privileged guests on this planet, and here we are in God's land, in God's earth, and we need to act, to realize that, and act accordingly. Ma'inyan Shmita Eitzel Har Sinai, perhaps that is an understanding of a basis of the entire Torah, of all of the mitzvot. The realization that it's not, oh, I've got to do that. It's an opportunity. It's a gift. It's a way to pay our own way to a certain degree. Now, one of the Psalms, the Tehillim that we say on Shabbat morning, we said it at the Seder. We say, Ki le'olam chasdo, Ki le'olam chasdo, Ki le'olam chasdo. You know how many times we say there, Ki le'olam chasdo, which means, because that is God's kindness. You know how many times we say Ki le'olam chasdo over there? Dov?
More than 15.
26. 26. What is 26? Well, 26 is the gematria, is the numerical value of God's name. But 26 is the generations from Adam until the Torah was given. Until then, the world was existing simply because Ki li'olam chasdo, Ki li'olam chasdo. What were we putting into the mix? What were we paying out? What were we contributing? Zip. Ki li'olam chasdo. Once the Torah is given, now we can, so to speak, offer something. We can almost pay our own way to a certain degree. We can do what we are meant to do in order to earn our place over here. Shmita, Eitzel Har Sinai, is to teach us that all of the mitzvot, the entire Torah, has this Shmita, this Har Sinai aspect of recognizing that we are not the balabas over here. We're not the balabatim. We're not in charge. Yes, Dov.
Is it possible Abraham Avinu also did Shmita?
I don't know.
People should do much
I don't know.
trying to put-
I don't know. I don't know.
What was the question?
Yes.
So, for the loanee, is it an obligation?
For what?
For the person who's the loan recipient,
Yes.
is it an obligation that they not? I mean, must they not repay? Or can they say, I took this
They
loan?
can say, they can do that. The lender cannot demand the loan. If the lendee says, listen, right, I know I don't owe you the money, I know you can't collect the money, I'd like to give you that money. You want to take it as a loan repay, you want to take it as a gift, right? Right? I would like to give it back. That a person is allowed to do. Okay? That a person is allowed to do, but the lender is not allowed to go ahead and collect that. Let's take the next 10 minutes, if we can, and go through the Gemara about, it's 2 sides, it's 1 page, about
I just wanted to
Lag
say
BaOmer.
something.
Yes.
I think that Parsha talk about the Shmitah, but I think we'll be missing a lot if we don't look at the other part that are really how to behave in business, how to behave people, the moral part.
Yes.
How to behave.
Yes.
And if we see only the prayer and the Shabbat and what we do,
Okay.
because God told us for
Oh,
God.
sorry, there was one, yeah, there was one, yeah. You can use those, yeah. It starts over here.
And
Okay?
if we forget,
Yes,
forget what between
Yes.
people, the people,
Dahlia's
then we miss the idea of the Shmitah
Yes,
completely.
Dahlia is making a good point. The Torah then continues with lo tono ish et chavero, that a person cannot overcharge, right? Is there not enough?
No, they're more than enough.
Okay, everyone has?
Quick question.
Yeah,
Rabbi.
yeah.
So if you own the loan, like to the bank, Israel bank, you don't pay on the 8th year.
No, the Israel bank
seventh
will write this Prusbul document,
year. Okay.
and they will therefore be able to collect afterwards. So Prusbul
Okay,
restructures the loan in a way that it can be collected afterwards. Okay? Okay. The Gemara tells the story of Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai on 33b3. Okay? This, the first column, after the little break there. In the Breita quoted above, Rabbi Yehuda was introduced as Rosh Hashanah B'chol Makom. The Gemara asks, Ma'amai Karule, why is he referred to as the head speaker? B'chol Makom. Over here, right, 33, there's B3 and B4. Make sure you're looking at 33B3. There's 2 sides to the page. Make sure it says 33B3, not B4 on the top.
Okay, so that's the other side.
Okay, that's cut off. I apologize. The one that says in the Breita,
Yeah,
okay? Yes.
the opposite.
Okay. So the Gemara relates how this occurred. I'm going to be reading in Hebrew. You can follow along in the English. Why was Rabbi Yehuda called the Rosh Medabrim? Right? B'chol Makom Diyati, wherever Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon, V'yatav Yehuda ben Geirim Gavayu. One time it happened that Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi, and Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai were sitting, and there was a fellow by the name of Yehuda ben Geirim who was sitting with them. Padav Yehuda v'amar, Yehuda began speaking and said, Kama noi masem shel umaza. How great are the acts of this nation, of the Romans. Tiknu shvakim. Look at the wonderful marketplaces they made. Tiknu gesharim, right? Wonderful bridges. Tiknu merchatzot, wonderful bathhouses, right? The Romans are great. Rabbi Yossi shatak. Rabbi Yossi didn't respond. Rishon bar Yochai. Rishon bar Yochai spoke up. When he said, Kol ma shetiknu lo tiknu elo tzorach atzman. Whatever they made it for themselves. Tiknu shvakim. Why do they have these beautiful marketplaces? Lo shebehen zonot. In order to have places where women will offer their services for men who want to pay for it. Merchatzot. The beautiful bathhouses, la'adein bahen atzman, is in order to adorn themselves. Gisharim, right? The bridges, easy pass. Litol mehen meches, in order to collect the tolls. All they did was for themselves. Halach Yehuda ben Gerim. Yehuda ben Gerim went, the siper divreim, and he told over, right? He was there for this conversation, this debate between amongst the greatest sages. And he told it over. He related what happened. But the problem was, and he didn't slander. He didn't go to the Romans and tell. He told one person, who told another person, who told another person. The Nishma'u Malchut. In the end, the Romans heard about it. Amru, they said, Yehuda She'ila Yitaleh. Yehuda, who spoke praisingly, will be uplifted. Yossi Sheshatak. Yossi, who was silent, Yigaleh. He will be sent into exile. Shimon Shegina. Shimon, who spoke, who disparagingly about us, Yehared, will be killed. Azal hu brei Toshebei Midrasha. Right, so he and his son went and they hid out in the Beit Midrash, in the study hall. Kol yom avimaitele debeto rifta v'kuza demaya v'karbe and v'karke. And every day his wife would bring some bread, a flask of water, and karke. What's karke? What else would you bring? And they would fold the bread and they would eat. Ki takav gzeirata. When the decree became harsher and they were really, really searching for them, Amle Lebrei said to his wife, Nashim daitan kalale and dilm tsarala umlagalyalan. I'm concerned they might torture her and she might reveal our location. Let's not implicate her. Azlu tasha b'marata. They went and they hid in a cave. Itrachish nisa. A miracle happened. Ibri luhu charuva ve'ena demaya. And there was a carob tree and a stream of water that presented itself in that cave. V'avi mishlucha manayu. Now, their garments, they removed their garments, v'aviyat v'yat savaraya b'chala, and they covered themselves in the earth and the sand, kuliyama garse, and they were studying the whole entire day. Be'idan sluye, when it was time for davening, lavshu michsu matzlu v'hada mishlechim menayu, kiechid l'olivlu. Right? They would put on their garments in order to stand in a dignified fashion before God to pray, and then they would take off their garments, cover themselves again with the earth, and study. Itvu tresar shanei v'marata. They were there for 12 years in the cave. Ata Elio, after 12 years, Ata Elio came Elijah the prophet, Vikama Pitcha de Marata, and stood by the entrance of the cave. Amar, he said, Man lodi le Bar Yochai demait Kaiser batam zerote. Who will inform Bar Yochai? The Caesar has died, his decree has been annulled. Nafku, they left the cave. Chazu inshi de kakar ve'evizari, they saw people who were plowing and who were planting. Flip it over, friends. Amar, and they said, Meinichin chaye olam, va'oskin b'chaye shah. Why are these people not, they're getting involved in this temporary world, and they're not putting every ounce of their strength into the eternal world? Right? They couldn't fathom Why were people, right, they had just lived this miraculous existence for 12 years. Completely spiritual existence. Wherever they would cast their eyes, it would be burnt. Right? They couldn't fathom, they couldn't stomach others not being on the same high spiritual level as they. Sabbatical, heavenly voice came out and said to him, have you come out of the cave in order to destroy my world? Chizru l'ma'aratchem. Back, return to the cave. Hadar azul etivu tresa yarchi shata. They returned and they spent 12 months in the cave. Amri, they said, Mishmar Sham Begehenim Yud Beit Chodesh. They said the judgment of even Rishaim, of even the evil in Gehenna, in purgatory, is 12 months. Yatz the Batkol, heavenly voice came out of Amman and said, Su'umi ma'aratchem, exit from your cave. Nafku, they went out. Kol echad havi machi Rabbi Lazar, havi masi Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Lazar, the son, was still a bit of a firebrand, too much of a zealot. Whenever he would see, his eyes would burn. Rabbi Shimon, he would heal. Amalon, he said to him, Bini, my son, Dai la'olam ani va'ata. Right? It's enough for the world, you and I. The world must go on. You and I can try to maintain this level, but everyone else needs to live a life that combines the physical and the spiritual. Bahadi pani damali shavata, on a Friday afternoon, chazahu sabah, so an older person, Davi Nakatre Madani Asa, who's holding two branches of the hadassim, of the myrtle, Virahit bein hashmashat, and he was running as the day was ending. Amalei, they said to him, Hanach lamalcha, what are these for? Amalahu lichvod Shabbos. Right, these are in order to give honor to the Sabbath, to Shabbat. Tisklei b'chad. Why isn't one sufficient? He explained, Chad keneged zachor, v'chad keneged shamor. Right, the duality of Shabbos, the zachor v'shamor, the remembering and the doing. One represents the zachor, one represents the shamor. A married woman lights how many candles? Right, a minimum of 2 candles. Zachor v'shamor. Amalei Librei, he said to his son, Chazi, see, kama chavivim mitzvot al Yisroel. How the mitzvot are so dear to Israel. Yativ datayu, their minds were put at rest. Shamar Pinchas ben Yair chatanei. Pinchas ben Yair, who was his son-in-law, heard that they had come out. V'navik la'apei, and he went to greet him. Ailei lebei b'nei, and he went with him to the bathhouse. Hadika arich le bisrei, and his flesh was all cracked, right? Yeah, there were cracks, right, in his flesh from all those years, right, being in the sand, out of the sand. Chazi dahavi beipili begufi, so that there were these cracks, right, in his flesh. Hadikabachi, right, he started crying over the state that he saw his father-in-law in. The kanatru dimat einai, and his tears fell onto his back, and he started to cry out from the pain. Amalei, the son-in-law, said to the Rosh Yochai, Oy li shereiticha bekach, woe to me that I see you in such a state. Amalei, he said to Mashrecha sheretani bekach, fortunate are you that you saw me in such a state. Shomai lo reitini bekach lo matzati bikach. Had I not endured what I endured, I would not have attained what I attained. Before this experience, when he would ask, Moshe Yochai would ask a question, Pinchas ben Yair would have 12 answers for every question that he asked. L'sof, now, when the Rebbe, Pinchas ben Yair would ask a question, right? He was able to give 24 answers. Right? And there are those that attribute the Zohar, right? The Zohar, which is our book of all of the Kabbalah, all of the Torah Nistar, all of the hidden parts of Torah. Right? We have the Nigla, we have the revealed Torah, and we have the Nistar, we have the hidden parts of Torah. They say that the Zohar was composed, right, was put together, was all the teaching of the Zohar was what he had attained during these 12 and then the 13th year.
By the way, one of the customs that we have to say 11 months Kaddish after people die came from here because 12 is the Rishayim.
Right.
So we give a person the benefit of
right.
the
Right. The reason we say, right, Dahlia is pointing out, the reason that we say Kaddish for 11 months, and there are different customs amongst different groups.
Right.
Ashkenazim, we stop the 11th month and only say again on the yard site. I think that the Persians stop and then they'll say it again the entire last week. Different Persian.
Why 11?
The Kaddish is to give a merit to the deceased. That this is being said, right? That the Kaddish is it's a merit for the deceased.
So why for 11 months?
Because a Rasha, a truly evil person, is in Gehenna, needs that cleansing for a full 12 months. So we don't want to assume or to indicate that the person we're saying Kaddish for is such a person, so therefore we stop, the custom is to stop after 11 months. Yeah.
And what is Shamor?
Shamor,
Zachor
okay,
and Shamor.
in the Ten Commandments, it says Shamor et Yom HaShabbat l'kadsho, and it says Zachor et Yom HaShabbat l'kadsho. It says guard the day of Sabbath to sanctify it, and that we understand meaning Shamor, that we abstain from doing things. That's the 39 malachot of Shabbat. And also Zachor, to remember, to mention the day of Shabbat to sanctify it. That is the due of Shabbat. The due of Shabbat is to mention the sanctity. And where do we do that? That's when we make our Kiddush Friday night. We mention the sanctity as Shabbat goes in. We mention the sanctity as Shabbat goes out. That's the Kiddush we make Friday night and again Shabbat morning. And then we say our Havdalah as the Shabbat goes out. Now it's interesting that what page of Gemara is this on? 33. Lamed Gimel. Right, the yard side, of course, of our Yochai is on Lag VaOmer, the 33rd day of the Omer. So you ever want to remember, on what page is the story of Yochai? Right, it's easy. It's on the 33rd page. Yes?
I don't get how the textual stuff has to do with Lag BaOmer, because it seems like, wasn't that Rabbi Akiva's students?
Yes. This, before you came, we spoke about Lag BaOmer being the yard site of Shimon ben Yochai, right? And therefore, in a way, Lag BaOmer is a celebration of his life.
Okay.
So that's why I wanted to learn through what the Talmud relates to us about the life of Shimon ben Yochai.
So, Lag BaOmer as well as the 24,000 students and
there were no deaths on Lag BaOmer.
Right. So, as well as all that, we then also do a birthday thing for...
Not a birthday, death day. Okay. Yard site. Yeah. Okay, my friends, we'll call it over here. A good day, everybody.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you'd like to keep the sheet, you more than can. If not...
Thank you.
How do we know this really happened?
We trust in the Talmud.